Hey guys, we're at a beautiful park in Fort Collins, Colorado called Spring Canyon, and there's just kids having a blast over there. There's a splash park and everything. I thought this would be a beautiful location to check out the W-Class from Ariel Rider. This is one of their most beautiful bikes. I actually reviewed it in 2016, and there's been some really nice updates since then, primarily hydraulic disc brakes.
Disc brakes, Tires have changed.
Tires, yep.
Saddle has changed. Battery, the big improvement. Battery has changed.
Absolutely. By the way, this is Arda. Yeah. He is the founder of Ariel Rider, and we've been spending a couple days together looking at a few different bikes. I posted their M-Class. It's like a mini, kind of a compact, sort of cargo bike, really cool bike, and we got to hang out with your brother Berk doing that one. So anyway, coming back to the bike here, this is what they consider their high step. It's sort of their larger frame. Okay, and you can see that this really nice, strong triangle design. They have another one that's, I don't know, what do you call it? It's just a...
I mean, it is a lower frame, let's say, yeah.
But it's not a step through.
It's not a step through. It's like in between step through and like this one.
4 inches. That's the big difference. So right here, this is the seat tube, and on this one, it's like 18.75 or something. On that one, it's like 14.75. It comes down about 4 inches. You still have a higher top tube, but it's sloped down for people who have shorter inseams. Maybe you're just wanting something that's a little bit more approachable. That bike, it comes with a really cool option. Instead of having this extra large 48 volt 17.5 amp hour battery, you can get that one with 48 volt 11.6, and the price point is a little bit lower too.
Yeah, it is very affordable. That one is $14.99, so it is a great for what it is. It's a great bike for that one. A great price.
It is. It really, yeah. And this is the premium, right? It's got this cool steel Springer style suspension. You're not getting a ton of travel, but it does travel a little bit. I think they were saying like 25 millimeters or something. It adds to the aesthetic. We were cruising around Fort Collins it was yesterday, and we went to New Belgium Brewery.
Yeah,
and
we did.
We were hanging out in front of the Fat Tire sign. That was cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we cruised on the bike path, and we saw a train, and I mean, we've been having a lot of fun on this. Yeah. So I think a lot of people like that look, and you can see the color. The fork matches the fenders, which are plastic, but they have these aluminum runners inside, so they're a little bit more sturdy. And you can see there's double support arm on the bottom. Same thing back here, so there's not as much rattling. There's good space between the tire and the fender. Sometimes with these bikes, there's a little bit of rubbing or something. I like that they've got integrated lights front and rear, and that even the rims are color matched. And look at this chain cover right here. So that's also plastic, a little bit lighter, a little bit more durable. It's not going to get bent the way that aluminum could, or rust the way that steel could. And then we've got this awesome, just pro wheel crank arms, Welgo pedals. There's a lot to appreciate on this bike. Quick disconnect for the rear motor. This is a Dapu 500 watt nominal, 900 watt peak, internally geared rear hub motor. Okay, and we've got these thicker 12 gauge spokes, because there's a lot of power going through this thing. Do you remember the Newton meter torque rating on this? It was like 80 or something like that.
It's something like that, I think.
Pretty significant. And this with bikes these days, there's a lot of numbers and stuff out there, but what I can tell you is that this thing is powerful, and it's pretty fast. I mean, you can unlock it, which is kind of neat. So it ships as class 2.
Yeah, we ship it as class 2, and we provide a password as well, so you can change the speed limits above 20 miles per hour, but of course at your own risk. And there are some certain, like, you have to put the sticker on, type 3 sticker by law. Also, the speed limiter is also useful because people buy this for like their elderly father or like mom or whatever.
Exactly. You can lower it.
Yeah, you can lower it even for younger kids. So we have lots of clients who are saying like, hey, can I lower the speed limits?
Okay, so you can, and we'll get into the display in a minute. I'm gonna try to do a little bit more of a walk around on this. I think we weighed this earlier, and what was it, like 65 pounds? In that range. So it is a little bit heavier, and part of that's because this does have a higher capacity battery. It was like 9 pounds.
And it's a bit large bike. It's a large cruiser bike, so it's not like a city bike where the weight is super important.
It is a longer frame. And then over here we have the C-Class. It's sort of a similar looking bike. Comes in some different colors. This one has a rear rack mounted battery versus the seat tube area battery. But one of the cons, one of the trade-offs with this battery is that you have to leave the key in order to turn the bike on. So I complain about that frequently. I don't think this is actually a Silverfish, but it's very similar to this style of battery pack that's been around for a long time. And in a way, it's pretty accessible. Here we've got the flip up saddle. You can just slide that thing right up. You can charge it on or off the bike. And again, removing it for lifting the bike or transporting the bike, even servicing the bike. Maybe you got a flat tire or you need to, tune up the wheels or something. It's nice to be able to remove the battery. The charger that they include in this it's kind of basic. It's a 2-amp charger. It only weighs 1.1 pounds, but I like that it has a metal connector point, so it's a little bit more sturdy. Just feels like it's going to be pretty durable. You're not going to see it on this model, but the current generation actually has some bosses for adding a rear rack too. So, you could have that utility, very similar to the C-Class over here. I like that. You won't get the cool bamboo front rack, but you've got pretty much everything else. You got the fenders going to keep you dry. I mentioned the lights earlier, but the brake light is pretty cool. Like, in order to activate them, we turn on the display here. We hold the power button for a couple seconds, it boots right up. I'm going to hold the plus button, and then the backlighting actually comes on the display, and the headlight and the rear light turn on. It's kind of minimal, but watch when Arda pulls the brake lever, you can actually see it going bright. So I think that is so cool. And now I'm going to turn off the lights, so the lights aren't even on, but let's do it one more time, Arda. Look at that, the brake light still works. So this is a really cool safety feature, something I care a lot about. I'm frequently pointing out, stuff like these reflective tires. Really appreciate that. These are 26 by 2.35. They're a little bit fatter. I like the gum color. It's sort of a retro classic, and even their logo just really, really nice. I think aesthetic is one of the primary draws of this bike for me, and I like that they've even internally routed the cables, so they're all bunched up pretty well up here with this nice wrap. They do have motor inhibitors on the brake levers, so that's a good safety feature, but it's not like they're just scattered all about. They're mostly just hidden, and that's going to keep them protected so you don't snag them. And there's a little bit, this one could probably get tucked in a little bit more on the headlight, but then again, when you steer, so you don't want it to stretch, so just keep an eye on this. I love that the front wheel does have quick release despite having all this additional hardware with that fancy fork they've got up there. And then the hydraulic disc brakes we talked about, so 160 millimeter up front. This is dual piston caliper. Seems like it works pretty well. Tektro is a brand I've seen on a lot of other electric bikes. Dorado's pretty decent, and again, it allows them to have that motor inhibitor, which it is a powerful motor. It's nice to be able to stop the motor instantly in addition to physically stopping the bike. So the rear disc brake, 180 millimeters, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Mid-mounted kickstand, that helps to, you can see that's where a lot of the weight is, right in the middle of the bike, and so that's good for handling and everything. They also wanted to support it. Unfortunately, it does create a bit of pedal lock, and you can even see there was like some silver scratch marks on the kickstand. And for me, this is a relevant point because a lot of times it'll be parked like in between cars in a garage or maybe a bike rack. Maybe you're backing it out and you can't get to the kickstand really easily, but I found that if you just try to force it like this, it actually works. It just sort of slips past. So I mean, I don't know, I can't complain too much. Yeah, it works out pretty nicely. In the rear, we have a 10 millimeter threaded axle, and it does have a little keyed like bolt pattern in there, so it's grabbing onto the frame. This is an all aluminum frame, but again, the fork is steel, so that gives it a little bit of extra strength. Maybe it adds to the weight, and we do have a steel seat post, and that's what the whole flip up thing we talked about before. When we were looking at the M-Class the other day, I just noticed there was a lot of branding going on from the frame being really simple and elegant and beautiful, but the saddle, the grips, these are padded faux leather on the saddle and grips, even the little display panel. So it feels a little bit more premium, even though the price is relatively low. What's the price on the premium model here, Arda?
This one is $17.99.
$17.99, yeah. So 14, 15, 16, 17. So yeah. $300, yeah. You get the upgraded fork.
And then the battery.
And then the battery. Yeah, those are the primary differences?
Exactly, yeah.
What were some of the colors? Can you remind me?
So on this one we have this red, and then we have this ivory white color.
Oh, that's nice.
As well. And then we have green, and then navy blue, and black.
And black, yeah. Black would be really cool because it would help to sort of blend in with the battery, the wires. I noticed that all of your accessory hardware, except the spokes, are black. So we have the black hub motor, the black mud flaps, battery, saddle, handlebars. And the handlebars are pretty cool on this bike. So they're extra wide. They come back to you, and that creates an upright body position so you're relaxed and you can just spot traffic or talk with a friend. We were talking to your brother, Burke, the other day, and he said, I get back pain, when I try to ride. He's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
So a bike like this, it brings you upright.
It does, and also you have the adjustable stem. So
Let's do that. I want to see the adjustable stem.
So you just push this pin backwards and pull it upwards, and you can just adjust it according to how you like to ride it. Just lock it back in place.
Show me the bolt, because one thing I noticed that we put these bikes together and stuff, and sometimes it gets a little loose.
When you find the optimal position, I would suggest them to screw in that bolt.
Okay.
Not too tightly, but you would have a feel about it. You would feel it, and then you just lock it up here, and you're good to go.
Okay, that's for people who are maybe a little bit larger, or you're over time you notice that maybe there's a little bit of play in there. I've been on bikes like this that were a friend's bike or at a shop, and I went off a curb and the handlebars shifted a little bit. Yeah, so I don't want to people have an accident or something. So flick bell, we got the twist throttle. Thumb shifter, this is not my favorite design, to be frank. I like the little trigger shifters, but what I found is sometimes they don't fit when you have a twist throttle.
Yeah, it doesn't actually fit the twist throttle, so that's the only reason that we put this one.
And looking on the bright side, this is very intuitive. Like, you see what gear you're in, right? You just push and there you go. It's simple. Also, if you have gloves on or you have bigger fingers, these are much bigger buttons than little triggers. Yeah. So I feel like it works well enough. I do want to point out that the display panel is not removable. It's fairly compact, but it's nice that it's still reachable. So the buttons are right here next to the grip. And this one, it wasn't over tightened, so it actually swivels a little bit, and that can reduce glare if you're riding along and just trying to get the sun out of your face a little bit. It is kind of tipped in, so seeing it's a little bit different on this bike than some of the other ones where they're flat handlebars. But it comes back to comfort. Let's talk about comfort one more time. Extra volume in those tires, that's vibration dampening. A little bit of suspension on the fork, not a lot, but a little. Sprung saddle, oversized, really comfortable, swept back handlebars, padded grips, adjustable stem. It feels good. Yeah. It really does feel good. And the tire pressure range is actually pretty wide as well.
It is very wide. So if you want like a softer, smoother ride, you can just like deflate the tires a lot.
You can, but I want to warn people who, if you go too low, your efficiency drops.
Yeah. I mean, your battery, you're gonna finish your battery in no time.
Right, and if you hit a curb or something, the tire's gonna absorb that, but it might pinch the tube inside. You could get a flat. These tires are good, but they didn't have like a puncture protective lining
Not only that, they can actually bend the rims.
They can bend the rim and take it out of true. Yeah. So don't go too low, guys. This is just, I'm kind of thinking through this, thinking out loud. I don't know, my major, there's not a lot to complain about on this bike. You guys have really refined it, and I can see why you've kept a lot the same, because it's a classic bike.
It is. I mean, we just added also the torque sensor before it was cadence sensor. Yeah. Since we're at it, I want to mention something, a safety feature. So when you're using a torque sensored bike, and this applies to any kind of torque sensored bike, always hold the brakes when you're first getting on it, because the reason is what torque sensor does is it measures the force you put on the pedals. Yeah. So the second you put your feet on it, it might just take off. So it's always hold the brakes when you're getting on it first.
That's a great point. And let's get a close-up of this thing here. So it says, Dapu torque sensor, and it's inside this plastic box. Seems pretty well sealed.
It's metal, it's not plastic.
Oh, that's metal?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, cool. Well, thank you. I love that they're using Panasonic cells too, by the way. This is higher quality stuff. So coming back to the torque sensor, it's more fluid and responsive. Like, there was a time where you'd hop onto electric bike and you pedal for a second and nothing happens, and then and it goes, and it's sort of unexpected. With this bike, you have full control because of the twist throttle, and then you have responsive pedaling because it's a torque sensor. I think it's a great setup. Clearly you guys switched. Were people asking for this, or why did you switch?
Yeah, people were asking. And also we, ever since we started, our goal has always been give the best as you can, in the most affordable price that you can give it. Yeah. So I mean, torque sensor is always much better than cadence, as you know. Okay. So we were we have to put it, we have to find the margin to put it in there.
Yeah, and so I want to say things that are the trade-offs for me, because I feel like you're here, these are my trade-offs. I don't like that you have to leave the key in, especially if you have a keychain. It's going to rattle and touch the frame, and that thankfully it's mostly out of the way, but you don't want to snag that or something. The fenders are great and they look nice, but they do rattle a little bit more than metal, and I think that rear light's a little bit more basic, but it works well enough, right? And it has the brake light thing, and I'm wearing a helmet here that has a light built in, so I'm kind of overkill. I really like that you have some different colors and you have some different sizes. I did notice that just because this is longer, has a longer wheelbase and a longer chainstay, there's a little bit of frame flex. So like if you shake the bike, it's not nearly as much as like a rear rack or something, but there's just a little bit more there. Does that matter? No, not really. Not for a cruiser bike, in my opinion.
I mean, the thing is, cruiser bikes, you either put the battery here or on a rear rack. If you put it on a rear rack, no matter how low it is, you're gonna get more
frame flex.
Yes, frame flex. This was the only way to put the center of gravity, keep it in the middle where you're sitting.
Yeah.
And without compromising from the looks.
And the look, that's true, because they have these, down tube mounted battery packs. The Electrotowny Go does that. They have a mid-drive. It's a completely different setup, and there's no throttle.
Exactly.
So there's a trade-off, right?
And also, as you said, like, this is a very good-looking bike. Like, I don't want to mess up with the looks of it because that wouldn't look nice on
There's only one other complaint I have, Arda. Can you guess what it is? I'm for sure I'm thirsty.
Okay, two things that I knew you were gonna say. One, it was the key, and two,
bottle cage bosses. I feel like you could have put them right here or here. I mean, does that mess up the integrity of the frame?
Now I'm gonna walk around with a bottle of water for you. Anytime you ask it, I'm like, here.
I mean, look, my job is to review, and it's not really fair when like the founder of the company's here, but we're trying to go deep. We're trying to get insights. I'm trying to like be true to you guys. Sound off if you have any other feedback about this, but I'm trying to seek out complaints because I actually think it's a really good value. And you guys have been around since what, 2012? 2011? And you've got a great warranty. It's a year comprehensive.
And then 2 years on a motor controller, and then the frame is lifetime.
Lifetime on the frame. The other cool thing about the company, and part of the reason they're able to go a little bit cheaper, is they have had some shops in the past, but you've been going predominantly online.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few shops that we've been working with like for years and years now, so we're still continuing with them, but mostly we're going directly to the customers.
Okay guys, I'm about to do a little display intro, but I wanted to show you the charger and the touch-up paint. Or is this your nail polish?
Yes, my
I don't know.
polish,
well, gosh, I don't know how it ended up in the
touch-up, not nail polish.
It is nice. You have such beautiful bikes, and so the fact that it comes with paint is really cool. This one has a metal tip, so I was talking about that's a little more sturdy, and then just 1.1 pounds. I thought this was so cool. You'd package that up, and it fits right on the little bungee rack on the C-Class over here.
Just fix it.
This is perfect. And now we head over to look at the display. So the first step is you turn the key to on, and it does have a little battery capacity indicator, which is kind of nice. For people who are new to lithium-ion batteries, you want to store it in a cool, dry location. If you aren't using it for a long period, kind of keep it charged. Check on it every once in a while. Try not to let it drop too low, 10-20%. That starts to strain the cells. So now that the battery is on, we're going to hold the power button here on the display. It's really nice, very reachable. You've got speed in the top left. There's a little power meter there. It says low, medium, or high, and that's how much power the motor is delivering. It always starts in assist level 3, but you can press the plus or minus keys to raise or lower. Go all the way up to 6 or down to 0. Pedal assist will stop, but again, that throttle is always active. So just keep an eye on that. If you turn the bike on and then you grab this to stabilize yourself, you could end up with a little bit of a scare there. There's a battery infographic that has 5 ticks, and then the outside ring also counts, so it's 6 bars. And then down here it's trip distance. If we tap the power button, it's going to cycle through some other stats. So from speed, it goes to average speed, max speed, and then back to speed. And then down here it goes from trip to odometer and timer. So it's really cool. There's a lot of great feedback. It's pretty simple with just 3 buttons. You hold the plus button to activate backlighting and the front and rear lights. You hold the minus button to do walk mode, which is pretty cool. So let's imagine that there's like a craft fair going on in this park, and it's not really appropriate to ride your bike across the grass or something. So you could use walk mode, and then you wouldn't have to push the 65-pound bike, and that's really convenient. And then if you double tap the power button, there's all these other menus. So this is the settings. So we could go from miles per hour to kilometers per hour right here. Tap it again, and it goes from backlight brightness, it's at 3 by default, power off, so 5 minutes. And then tire width or diameters, 26 inches, that's correct. And then there's voltage, so it's a 48 volt system, so we want to leave it there. If you went to 36, it would throw an error, it wouldn't work. And then password, so this is cool. Password is 1919, and what that allows us to do is basically raise or lower the top assist speed, okay? And that's kind of cool. Back to safety for someone, or maybe you're commuting on this bike and you're on the side of a road and you feel like, hey, I want to keep up with cars, I want a little bit more power. You can do that on this bike. Again, it does change the class of the bike. It does ship as class 2, which means throttle and pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour. So I think that's it. I'm gonna hop on the bike. We're just gonna do a little bike path ride. So I'm in 0 assist right now, so this is just me pedaling. It's really quiet, pretty stable. Oh boy. Hey guys. Yeah, beautiful day on the bike path. Howdy. I want to try the no hands again here because, yeah, there we go. The bigger, the fatter tires, 2.35 inch, they track nicely, and I'm not getting any speed wobble or anything here. Sometimes you get that with like some of the Flexier frames or the rear battery. This just feels great. Okay guys, you're connected to the seat post. You can see the battery right here. I've turned it to the on position, and then that nice plastic paint match chain cover, just going to keep you clean, and it almost doubles as a guide because there's a little blocker on the inside along with that alloy bash guard on the outside. So it's a nice setup. The drivetrain's pretty good. 46 tooth steel chainring up front. Love the pedals, giving me plenty of traction and just a bigger platform if you have bigger feet. It's kind of nice. And then back here, 11 to 36 tooth cassette Altus, so that's a step up from Turney. I'm just going to pedal through, but listen for how quickly the motor starts and stops. It is a torque sensor, which is on the other side, that like the circular plastic box thing we looked at. Yeah, it's really nice to be able to override that with the throttle at any time. So it's something to keep an eye on. This bike is a little bit more advanced in the sense that once it's on, that throttle is live. So if you're getting on the bike and you bump it, you don't want to have that happen. And by the same token, if you push down on those pedals and you're not holding the brake lever, like that can actually start the bike too, because it's a torque sensor. So I love that both brake levers have motor inhibitors, and that's just the way you want to start. Either leave the bike off when you're hopping on, or hold the brake lever so that it doesn't take off on you. So let's do it. I'm going to start off in the highest level of assist here, so the motor will be more pronounced, and you'll be able to hear it. Very nice. Those hydraulic disc brakes are smooth and powerful. With the extra large 180 millimeter rotor in the back, in cruisers there is more weight towards the back, especially with the hub motor there. But just the seating position, the larger saddle, the bike itself is a little bit heavier, so that's working pretty well. This time I'm going to take off just with the throttle and cruise along. So it's an interesting bike. I love that you can raise or lower the speed, and that their display system is so open in that way. And the shifter. There we go, kind of in the highest gear. So we were riding around Old Town Fort Collins. Saw this beautiful house over here, it's for sale, and the owner, Durf, came out and he was like, I'm a bike guy, what do you got, these electrical bikes? So I convinced him to let me film him because he was kind of reluctant. But it's his first time on an electric bike, and he's getting some advice from Arda right now, checking out the tires and everything like that. He zeroed in on that suspension Springer fork up there, which again is mostly cosmetic. But he's it seems like he's digging it a little bit. So we'll get some shots of him in just a minute and see what he thinks.
Since it's a torque sensor, it measures how much force you put on the pedals, so it'll give you gas.
Oh,
so it's kind of dangerous.
It's time to go.
So when you're getting on, just hold the brakes. Okay. This is a throttle, so if you don't want to pedal, you can just turn the throttle and then it will override.
Yeah. Not bad, right? It's got that dial on the back too, so feel free to
Is this an electric helmet too?
It does have a light built in. Yeah, it's for safety, right?
Gosh, you're blowing my joke. Start pedaling.
Yep, or throttle
Or
it.
throttle, just throttle.
And we could raise the seat if you need. See, he's a taller gentleman.
Yeah.
So he's, you know, the cruiser, you kind of relax and you don't have to pedal if you don't want. There, he's getting it.
Yeah, see?
There you go.
Fast.
It's fast, yeah. Look at him. Right into the mulch.
And that's the last time we saw him.
You told me a story about your mom doing that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She was so excited. This is great. He's bouncing on the saddle a little bit. Yeah. Just press all the buttons and ride around for a while, man. That's my approach.
Until it explodes.
Let us know what you think. Tell us if we should redesign this. That's what I want.
Well, where's the stereo on this? That's the most important
That's the
question.
thing, right? Maybe right here they got the boombox
Yeah.
mount. That's
The
what I'm
sound
talking
system.
about. He's got the right idea.
Whenever anyone buys a new car, I always, first thing I say, how's the sound system?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm glad he let us film. Like, this guy did not, he was like, I'll ride it, but I'm not going on camera. And I was like, teasing him a little bit, but he's doing a great job, you know?
I think he's enjoying it as well.
So hey guys, if you want a house in Fort Collins, Colorado,
Cool Durf.
you want to meet Durf, yeah, this is your chance. He was like, how much you paying me? I was like, well, what if we help you sell your house? That'll be a sweet deal.
I want one.
You want one? Oh yeah.
It's surprisingly fast.
Yeah.
It is.
It really is. And it's smooth too. I mean, the ride is very nice.
Have you used hydraulic disc brakes before?
I have.
So yeah, you've got, you know, for me that's an important feature because these are a little bit heavier, and with that extra speed, whenever you're pulling these brakes, it also cuts power to the motor and it activates the brake light for safety.
Oh, very cool.
Nice little extra.
And so if I'm climbing a hill, I would assume that I would pedal assist.
Yeah.
Probably go up to 5 or 6.
Yeah, and then shift down to a low gear so that you
Sure. Okay.
can, yeah.
Yeah, it's odd when you're pedaling and all of a sudden it just kicks in.
zooms.
Yeah, yeah.
What level did you use the most, or what was your ride like?
I was just playing with going up and down, see how it felt, so I could tell the difference.
All the buttons.
Yeah,
Love
all
it.
the buttons. But it really felt quite stable.
Thank you so much, Durf.
Yeah,
It's
thank
a
you.
real
That was
pleasure.
fun.
You
Yeah.
did a great job. I'm just glad you came back.
Thanks. Yeah, that's right.
We saw you turn.
turn just to mess
Like,
with you guys.
Durf, no!
Really. Trade you the bike for the house.
Yeah. This is not something you see every day. We've been cruising around the paths and we got the Union Pacific just hanging out on the wooden bridge. I mean, these trains drive through Fort Collins like 5 times a day, and they're like honking super loud, but you rarely see them stopped. Just another reason it's kind of cool to get out on your bike and like explore. Look at this, it's beautiful. This is awesome. Wow, I've always loved trains. Well, there we go, guys. It's been a fun day. Getting a cruise around, fun couple of days, right?
Yeah, it was great.
I think that's about it. We've gone over the W-Class, and what does the W stand for? There's just nothing. The flying W. I don't know.
Exactly, it's just W.
How about the C-Class? Is that the coffee
City.
class? Oh, City.
Yeah,
Okay.
it stands for something.
City class.
Yeah.
For the full written review on these electric bikes, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I've got all the specs, the standover height, minimum saddle position, comments and stuff. And have fun out there and ride safe.